but they don't believe me because I've been here for years working. And so it's seeming.
All right, what's up, everybody? So today I wanted to take the time to break down the latest music video I directed for Slim Huck called Zooted Up.
Yeah, I'm zooted up, I'm booted up. Yeah, little hoe, go scoot it up, go scoot it up. Yeah, I'm zooted up, I'm booted up. Yeah, little hoe, go scoot it up, go scoot it up.
I've pretty much, because of this whole virus thing, just been stuck in this room editing, and I'm fortunate enough to have a decent amount of editing to do. But in the spirit of community and sharing, I just wanted to kind of throw this out there. So I'm going to break down a handful of effects that we did in this video, and they'll start from easy and in kind of increasing difficulty as we go. None of them are really all that hard though. So let's just go ahead and jump into the screen. So this first effect we have is a color replacement on Huck's jacket. This effect is by far the easiest of the ones we'll do today and should only take you a handful of minutes. Go ahead and jump in your color panel. I'm going to turn off my color grade adjustment. Let's go ahead and turn off that clip as well. So all we see is this raw. Select the curves tab. And we're going to come over here to the hue versus hue tab. Now we're going to select the eyedropper and grab a part of his jacket. Now, as you'll see, it gives us 3 markers right here, and this is the color range that it's selected. So when we go ahead and grab this thing here in the middle, we can pull it down and we'll see it gradually affect only that color selection. So up we go to pink, and voila, now we have a pink jacket and it'll play through. Now, fortunately for this one, this is kind of a noisy, like in-your-face collage-y music video, so it wasn't terribly important to make sure we were not selecting pink in the background. So that's something to be aware of, especially when you shoot, is to make sure if you're trying to isolate just one color, you want to make sure that it's not one that you're going to find all over your background. So the next effect is this finger guns effect. So these are all individual photos, including the finger gun. What we did here is I had Huck put out his hand and just make like a finger guns pose, and took a picture of it. So what we're gonna wanna do here is open up this finger guns thing in Photoshop. And you can do this in After Effects or in Premiere Pro, but really all we need to do is completely cut out his hand. I'm gonna go ahead and hit P and grab the pen tool, and this is the fun part where we're going to tediously make a selection. Now, there are plenty of other ways to make a selection, but for the sake of this tutorial, we'll stick with the pen tool. Feel free to do it however you'd like. Let's go ahead and skip ahead so we don't have to watch this. All right, and we are done. So we have a fully cut out layer, so it's just these finger guns. So we'll go ahead and export this as a PNG. We have our PNG from this raw. So let's go ahead and jump back into Premiere Pro. Before we import it, I want to talk about, these are just the photos we have. It's just, shot on burst mode, just a handful of different photos. What we're gonna do here is make the selection of all of these layers and nest it. All right, so this is now all of our photos is in a nest. So we're gonna go ahead and replace that with an After Effects composition. So we're gonna go ahead and import that finger gun asset we made. We're gonna import the PNG. All right, so what I'm gonna do is drag and drop that finger, and because the original sequence is 1080 and this photo was taken from my camera as a raw image, it's like a 6K size file. So we're gonna go ahead and hit S on the keyboard for scale, and we're just gonna kind of scale it to about the size we want it. And while we're at it, we're gonna go ahead and hit A for the anchor point, and I wanna change that anchor point to be right around where the swivel should happen for that arm to swivel down. And I'm pretty happy with that. And you can always check it by hitting R for rotation and just seeing where that rotation point is happening. This is exactly where I want it, so it can swing down. Now we're gonna hit P on the keyboard for position, and you can move it where you want it to be as it comes out in its final place. So right about there is where I want it. We're going to animate this now. So we're gonna start by hitting R on the keyboard. We're gonna rotate it up So it's pretty much out of the way. Looks like I need to change the position too, just to make sure it's completely hidden. I'm going to place a keyframe right here in the beginning, and I want the arm to swing down a few frames later. So we'll go to like right there and bring it back to 0. So, and we play it back, swoop, it should swivel down pretty quick. Now we want to make this look a bit more realistic, which means we're going to add motion blur by clicking that button right there. So now as the hand drops down, you'll see it's blurring with the actual motion. So time for our next step. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump up here and select the puppet tool, and we're going to make 3 points. We're going to make one on his thumb at the tip, one at the joint, and one at the other joint. Now, this is where I want the finger guns animation to start. So we're just going to move ahead in time just a few frames, and we are going to pull the thumb down. And first keyframe, I'm going to also move this part of the knuckle up just a touch. We see that thumb move down. So we're going to go to that current keyframe, and here in the mesh, we're going to twirl down and then twirl down to form, and we're going to find the keyframes for the puppet tool adjustments we made. And so you'll see our resting positions are here. So I'm actually going to copy both of these, go further in the timeline, paste them, further in the timeline, paste them. So now when we play through, we'll see it'll just basically run this animation with our copy pasted keyframes. A special note, the more time you spend on this, the better it'll look. So like I'm just doing this really quick for the sake of speeding through. We see his whole arm moving, so I'm going to add another puppet pin on his arm to prevent it from moving around. Bang, I'll add one there. Now it's just the thumb that's movement is isolated. So we're pretty much done. If we wanted to give it that handheld camera shake to kind of, I don't know, take it to the next level, we'll select both our layers, right click, and we will pre-compose. Move all the attributes, whatever. So now it's all on one little layer here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit S on the keyboard. I'm gonna scale up to like 105, so it's a little bit tighter. And then on the P, P for position, I'm gonna Option or Alt click on that stopwatch icon to bring up the expressions. I'm gonna type wiggle and then 10, and maybe we'll do 5 and 10, see how that looks. Just to give it, a little bit more. So maybe we want a bit more movement, so we'll do, let's say 20 and see how that looks. Not terrible. We want maybe to be a little bit slower, so we can just change it. So what you should know about this expression is your first number is your speed. This is how fast the wiggle is going to happen. And the second number is basically how much wiggling is going to happen. So if I choose 100, you're going to see is going all over the place. We don't want that. We don't want that much. We want it to stay right in this category where we're not seeing any black bars. So just like that, you got yourself cool little finger guns. This next effect is a dust thing. So we're actually going to be adding fake dust to this as well as a light beam. So this is our final shot. We see this like extra light beam coming out with the dust. So what I want to do is take this raw clip and do the same thing. So let's go ahead and right click, and we are going to replace this with an After Effects composition as well. All right, here we are. So we got the clip. I'm gonna go ahead and drop this resolution down to 1/3 so it'll actually play through. So what you're going to need are some assets. We're gonna need some dust assets. Now I got this asset pack over here from Premium Beat for free, so I would recommend checking them out. I think I'm gonna use this beam right here. I like that one a lot. But before we can play with the dust, we need to track our motion. So go ahead and open up your tracker panel, or if you can't find it, you can just go over here to Window and select Tracker. So make sure we're at the beginning of our timeline here, and we're going to hit the Track Camera option. And we're gonna let After Effects do its thing. So we have a few points here. I wanna pick one that's kind of like lined up, right here, like this triangle. It's lined up, with this actual light face, which is good because that's kind of what's gonna be our anchor here. So we're going to create a null in camera because we want that dust to pair to that null object. So I'm gonna grab the large beam of dust, drag it down onto the timeline. I'm gonna make it 3D. I'm gonna hit P on my keyboard to bring up the position, and the same exact thing on the null. So we're gonna go ahead and copy the position data and paste it. So clearly this is too small, but what we're gonna do right now is spend some time getting it to the right scale and rotation and position to feel like it's coming from that light dish. All right, now we can kind of play back and just make sure, looks like, yep, it is in fact moving right where we want it to. So our next step is we're gonna draw a mask. So what you're gonna do is select your layer, select G on your keyboard to bring up the pen tool, draw a mask from this dish that loosely follows where we want this light beam to be, you know? And we're gonna kind of curve that a little bit. And yeah, looks like we ran out of video here, so I'm actually just going to extend it, since it doesn't matter too much if it warps. And now we have, right here, we got a good looking track. That's pretty believable. Now, getting to the end. So what we're gonna do here, we need to twirl down to get to our mask, feather the shit out of this basically. So we're gonna feather it a bunch so it feels super soft. And now the last thing to do is to change our blending mode, and we're gonna blend with screen. All right, there we go. So now we have a good looking light beam and dust track. Now, if you don't like the angle of the light, all you gotta do is just change that mask. So voila, we have fake dust added to a shot. Now, our last dust order of business is this shot that pushes in on Huck, which is what I actually ended up using for the outro shot. So same thing, let's go ahead and replace that with an After Effects composition. Cool, again, just like last time. First thing we're gonna do right now is track the camera. Okay, so the tracker finished. As we scrub through, we see all the points that After Effects was able to track, which is excellent. So I'm actually gonna grab a point. Let's see what we can find that looks pretty solid. I'm gonna grab this point right here. So again, I'm gonna create the null and camera for that point. So if we select the null layer, we'll see as we play through, you know, it's kind of hanging out right by that post. Now, what I wanna do is add like a beam of dust from the skylight that's right up here, which doesn't actually exist in real life, but you know, it's off camera, so we can kind of motivate light from there if we'd like. I'm gonna grab actually that same dust beam and drop it in. Let's go ahead and make it 3D. And just like last time, I'm gonna go ahead and hit P on the null object, copy the position data, P on our dust, and paste it. So now when we play through, as the camera moves, oh yeah, I gotta switch this down to a third. So as the camera moves, that dust beam is now stuck to that null object. So the camera will just pass right by it, which is great. So next thing I want to do is change the scale and make it bigger. Change the position, bring it over a lot. Like this is about where I want it to be. And now we're going to change the rotation just a touch. Like right about there is how I want that light to come down. So I'm gonna hit G on the keyboard and I'm just gonna do like a rudimentary mask again. I gotta scale out so I can finish this mask. And voila. All right. So again, I want this thing to fill the whole frame from the beginning. So I'm going to just scale it up a teeny little bit here. Again, I don't mind much distortion. It doesn't matter too much. Next, let's go ahead and just feather that mask and get the blending mode right, because I think I'm pretty happy with where it's positioned. So we'll twirl down on the mask and just drag that feather up. All right, and now we'll go ahead and change our mode, our blending mode to screen. So now when we play through, we will see this dust beam is fixed in place. Look at that. And we pass right by it. Thought that was kind of a neat little effect. Again, it's super simple to track, and it's one of those things that just adds a little bit more like atmosphere. It's kind of like using haze or fog at a shoot. Like it's something that you can kind of do all the time anywhere, subtly, and it adds a lot. You know, a lot of these effects are effects people aren't even gonna notice, but it just, I don't know. A, it's good practice. B, I think it's cool. I think it looks cool. This one might be a little bit overkill. So, you know, we can just hit T on the keyboard and drop our opacity down to like 50 if we want. And then it's just super subtle as the dust falls. So anyways, that's that. This actually went on being quite a bit longer than I expected. Now, if any of you want me to explain some of the effects that take a little bit longer, like the eye bulge effect, or that mirror replacement effect, you know, let me know. I'm happy to dive into it more, but for now, that's about all the time I have. So stay safe out there. Peace.